This is the highest end of the mid-size luxury SUV market. We've got the 2024 Acura MDX Type S and the 2024 BMW X6. Two vehicles that you might not cross-shop, but at these prices, they're both delivering near equal amounts of performance, technology, and some seriously good looks inside and out. The X6 has been new since 2020. The MDX, brand new since 2022. These are both popular vehicles, the MDX much more so. But both of them truly have a niche market. At the Type S level, you're talking about a $75,000 Acura. And while an $87,000 BMW might not seem out of the question, when you're willing to spend these sums, believe me, you might be choosing one or the other. The X6 has that fastback coupe-looking roofline, but it's actually the bulkier vehicle. The wheelbase is 3.3 inches longer than the Acura, and it's actually riding higher. It's 8.1 inches off the ground. Even so, I think it's not really that radical anymore, pretty normal. It's an X5 with a slopier back roof. You get all the traditional BMW elements up front, and for 2024, the lights are a little slimmer. There's now an illuminated grille, that's kind of cool. And you can also get 22-inch wheels. The Acura only has 21s. Well, you can get 21s on here too. It also depends on how much you want to drive. These are performance, non-run flat tires, and there's no spare, so don't think about going too far off-road with one of these. The Acura has the more conventional looking SUV body, but it's lower to the ground, 6.7 inches on this air suspension, which comes standard in 5 different settings for the height. And when you're parked, it automatically lowers. I just think the clearance between these wheel wells and these 21-inch tires really looks good. And the wheels look fantastic, standard in the Type S, along with 14.2-inch Brembo brake pads and rotors right up in the front. Looks great. Definitely stops well too. And in the front, you'll see different bumpers on the Type S. I just think this is a more elegant looking SUV. It's actually longer overall by over 3 inches, and yet compared to the X6, it's within a few tenths in both width and height. But I love these headlights. They are incredibly bright. As nice as the BMW is, it's the Acura that to me is gonna last even longer with its style. This is not my favorite angle on the X6. It's very tall, it's very blunt, and I don't think it really looks sporty at all. Back here, all you're really getting, some nice lighting, some muted exhaust tips, and some fin spoilers on the top of the roof and the back of this tailgate. Other than that, I really think it's the front that makes it a true BMW. The back of the Acura doesn't have the visual bulk that the BMW does, and I like that a lot more. It's a better stance vehicle, it has better edges to it, and the lights even look a little bit nicer, even though they're not full width. And my favorite feature are those big, bright chrome exhaust tips. Paying more means you get more. On the Acura, it's a 3-liter turbocharged V6, and on the BMW, it comes standard with a 3-liter turbo inline 6. Check out the numbers. BMW definitely wins in that department, in part because it uses a 48-volt mild hybrid system, which uses an electric generator and motor that's attached to the 8-speed automatic transmission. As such, it delivers drastically better fuel economy. Look at those numbers. The Acura is definitely way behind. But on the gear side, 10-speed automatic on this side, 8-speed on that side. On the Type S, all-wheel drive is standard, and on the X6, it is optional only on this trim. Upper trims, it always comes standard. And if you do get those upper trims of the X6, you're getting a ton more power. But for comparison purposes here, these two are almost neck and neck. Between these two, there's only one winner when it comes to engines and transmissions. BMW. It's something you just can't fault this company because it's in their name. They know what they're doing. An inline 6, so smooth. And it doesn't matter that the output is just a little bit higher. It's not really that so much because this is a heavy car. It's like 5,000 pounds. It's the power delivery, it's the sound, it's the smoothness. Even though some of that sound is fake coming in here, just like the Acura. It's actually a little bit more muted than the Acura, incredibly enough so. And transmission response. In every single driving mode, it's like it's reading your mind. Like if you're in Sport Plus, which is the most aggressive setting, and then you back off, it dials back with you, and then it's really ready to go as soon as you are. And the Acura doesn't quite have that same level of really the programming intelligence to adapt in that same way. So any of these modes, switch it back into comfort, it's just so much quicker to react in every single situation. There's a nice little feature if you press and hold the left paddle for a second, it automatically drops the gear, even if you're in comfort mode, to the lowest possible gear. And then if you just let up for a little while, take it out of that temporary manual mode, it settles. It's just great in every single mode possible. And I say that about every BMW because they just keep doing it great. And it's definitely better in the Acura. As great as that Acura's engine is, it cannot compete with this at full song. Just can't. Despite this X6 having 22-inch tires, even bigger than that on the Acura, there is some tire noise, a little bit more that I can hear, but it's still very quiet inside here. It's kind of a draw in terms of which one is more relaxing. I would say in comfort mode, especially with this light steering, the X6 really reminds me like it's a Lexus RX. It's odd to say that about a BMW, but these cars have become so much plusher over the years. And if you just want an SUV to commute in, take for long drives, and occasionally go quickly, it's hard to argue against either of them. But the X6 definitely feels even plusher. Unlike the Acura, there's no air suspension on this model. It is optional, another standalone option. So there's adaptive dampers in the standard suspension. It's still really flat. I don't think you need the air, truly not. Through these corners, I'm aware the X6 has a lot of grip and the chassis is absolutely tight, buttoned down. But the steering is failing here. From a performance mindset, the Acura is the one that has just more feeling coming through the whole column. The feedback is just very muted all the time. I can't really tell even the exact tire position. It's not totally there. This is one of the most subjective things you can do when driving a car and reviewing it. But I don't feel as connected to this chassis like I do in that Acura. And that's an odd thing to say, but Acura has definitely done a better job than BMW here. I think BMW's really aced the comfort side and the luxurious side of an SUV. But it's just not as sporty to chuck through these corners, even though physically, it'll absolutely eat them up. Here's why you pay a lot more money for the BMW. This augmented reality camera right in the instrument panel. And not only that, you can change the view. So if this is too large, you can put them in a narrower scope between these gauges. I absolutely love that, and it's very easy to adjust right on the steering wheel. But here, you can also use the assisted driving feature, which is a new feature on BMW X6 models for 2024. And what that does, you're supposed to be able to take your hands off the wheel. That's what BMW lets you do. Until it's telling you to put your hands back on the wheel. It's got lights here and it's got all the chimes if you don't pay attention. I don't think it works quite the same level of expertise as you'll find with GM and Ford. Those systems, to me, seem like they're more advanced, but they are not available at all on the Acura. Another reason why the X6 has the superior technology, it's voice recognition and the assistant. Take me to the nearest Dunkin' Donuts.
Which one of these 20 entries?
And of course, there's 20 of them because we're in Massachusetts. Once you start the guidance,
I've started guidance.
it truly is so fast. So if you're using Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, you can. Go ahead and use Waze all you want, but it's not going to work as quickly or as well as the system that's already in place here from the factory, truly. Another nice thing is that it'll show the turn-by-turn directions in this augmented reality view as we get closer. It's showing you the arrows right here. It's amazing. And also on the head-up display, which you can't see. And then, of course, there's the actual physical exit sign. All of these features you will not find on the Acura. So if you really like this technology, An X6 is the car to have. And the brake pedal feel, I would say it's a little soft. I like how the Acura's electro servo system is better, so this one could be a little bit improved. Automatic parking systems are very commonplace, so there's no reason to talk about them, except if you're in a new BMW. This X6 has what's called backup assistant. Select the reverse gear. It's turning the wheel for me. All I have to do is hold the brake, and it's showing me the intended path. Turning the wheel for me. And truly, this doesn't work all the time, but it's kind of cool. And you can save this in multiple locations. So it'll actually save individual parking spaces to help you maneuver. And just when you thought BMW was finished with parking, nope, you can record. And what that does, you're driving forward, and then when you're done driving forward, it will reverse in the exact same movement. Same steering, same everything. So say I start over here, I hit save, and I can save the recording. And just like before, it'll use the GPS to automatically bring this up when I'm in this location. So right now, the car is not only shifting, it's steering, it's accelerating and braking, and doing the exact opposite maneuvers that I just did driving forward. Well, not quite, because it wants us to go straight into the water. This is why technology is cool, but you can never rely on it. Pretty good response from this Acura. And yeah, you can get a regular MDX with a V6, but this smaller one, this is the one that makes it compete with car makers like BMW. It's that low-end torque from this turbocharger, all the torque from 1400 RPM. And it sounds pretty good too. A lot of that is fake, just like the X6. And the Sport exhaust, even though there's a physical valve that opens in the Sport and Sport Plus modes, again, it's tougher to hear from inside the car, just like the X6. So makes me feel like you pay extra for the sportier versions, and yet you still can't hear it. This is good enough, but I mean, I can't hear the exhaust. And that's a shame, because those exhaust pipes on this MDX are massive. Even though there's no electric assist, the boost on this MDX is very good. Why? Well, it's still using a turbocharger just like the X6. It's a twin scroll design. That means there's two inlets for the exhaust, which helps spool up the turbo quicker when there's, not as much exhaust at lower RPMs. And then there's another port when the engine's revving higher, so you get better response. That's exactly what BMW uses, and the turbocharger is very close into the V for maximum response. So Acura's really got that down here. This engine was developed specifically for Type S vehicles. First appeared in the TLX. You can watch that review. We took the Type S to the track, performed pretty well. And even though the MDX is not meant to be any sort of track machine, from the start, it's very much European in its character. And that goes for the suspension. Standard on here is an adaptive air suspension that's never been done in an Acura. I actually forgot all about it until I drove this again, and I was like, wow. I did not expect that as standard equipment, and it lowers at higher speeds, and especially in the sport mode, it is dropping it. So from the start, the center of gravity on this MDX is at least an inch or more lower than that in the X6. And when I'm driving this, I feel like I'm more in a sedan, where in the X6, it definitely feels more like a much taller SUV. The gear changes are definitely a weak point because there's more gears, but that doesn't make it better in this situation. 10 speed, it responds well in most of the modes. But then in the Top Sport Plus mode, if you back off, you can never really upshift for too long. It just keeps the revs really high, so you do have to drop out. Whereas with the X6, it's more intuitive into how you're actually driving at that moment. Definitely better programming. And the response time, even though Acura has quickened this transmission versus the regular MDX, they're claiming anywhere from like 30 to 40% quicker upshifts and downshifts. It still cannot match the 8-speed in the X6. But where the MDX Type S shines is steering. The steering feel leagues better than the BMW. To my hands, like just the off-center feel, the feel coming through the column, it's just like, it's so much more connected. Combine that with the fact that this vehicle is lower, and I feel like I can go quicker in this car, even though the BMW truly has higher levels of grip. It's got bigger summer tires. Acura doesn't offer summer tires as an option on the Type S. These are narrower, these are all seasons, but still, in terms of just driving on a back road, this is the more enjoyable car because of the feel that it's giving me, not that it's technically better. Despite the lower levels of grip at the limit, there's actually another trick up Acura's sleeve. It's a torque vectoring rear axle that's mechanical. It's using clutch plates. It's not using brakes like the Germans mostly do. This is actually transferring that torque. It can send up to 100% of the rear axle's torque to either wheel. And when you're driving in tighter radius corners, say you're coming in a little too hot or you just want to, it sends more torque to the outside wheel to keep you in line. And I felt it work. It's a lot of fun, it truly is. And for a big 3-row SUV, the MDX can really dance around. I say this a lot in our comparison tests, but I'd really like to combine separate elements into one vehicle. I'd take the steering and the braking feel here, and I'd like to marry it with the X6, that powertrain, the transmission and the engine. That car doesn't exist, so it's up to you which of those parameters are more important. Do you want a stronger engine and better gearing? Or does that not matter as much to you and you really want the feel, especially on a back road, of feeling more in one with the car? That's a question. Yeah, even right there, the engine sound and just the response time, you wouldn't get that in the BMW. That's the type of commitment that they have and why it's so much more expensive. It's just moments like that where this transmission in the Acura will be seemingly right up to speed and then it slows down. It's like it's quick to react and then it's not. And it's a bit inconsistent from drive mode to drive mode too. So these are little things, but to me, that's why BMW wins in that department. They just have more experience doing this. Right there, that's the axle overdriving that outside wheel. And it makes the Type S just so playful. And coming to a stop, these brakes, they're derived from the NSX supercar that unfortunately Acura no longer makes. You can find that same essence right here. BMW's latest OS is on this 14.9-inch curved display. This is the home screen. Now check out all the tiles. This not only has the in-car apps, it's showing all your apps, for example, in CarPlay. ChargePoint, well, this car doesn't use that, but it has everything all here. Slightly different look from the rest of the apps here. I think it's kind of crowded. You do get used to it after a while, and there are plenty of settings because this is a German car. You can change these sounds. Part of it's real, part of it's not. I like the fact that you can turn that off. Change all the different sport driving modes, the damping, the steering, all the tons of driver assistance features. There's so many of them. Then occasionally see the vehicle in 3D. It's even the exact same color as the car we're driving. With the same rims, might I add. Because this is a newer BMW, there's no more physical climate controls. They're all in the touchscreen, so everything from the temperature to the fan speed is all right here. Now the temperature always shows, but if you want the heated seats, cooled seats, or the heated steering wheel, you have to tap again. You get used to this, but it's a little cumbersome, especially if you have something else on the screen like the map, so you always have to exit out of it. It's definitely more complex than previous systems. I'm still not totally used to it, but like anything, you will get used to it. And if you want, there's also digital keys that will use your iPhone or Android to unlock and even start the car. The MDX comes with a 12.3-inch screen. It's not a touchscreen. It only uses this touchpad, which requires you to hold a finger down to activate any of the functions. And if you don't touch in exactly the right spot, well, you got to do it all over again. This is a bit frustrating, and for 2025, Acura is putting in a touchscreen. But for now, in 2024, you don't have that. But the system is at least simple to operate once you get used to that. All the settings are here. For example, on this side, display settings, all the usual. You can change the suspension. This is honestly the best feature because just like a Range Rover or any other luxury car with automatic leveling suspension, you can change the parked height. Right now it's on low, and that's so much easier to get out of the MDX. Plus, it looks a whole lot better when you're parked. There's also plenty of driver assists. Acura Watch comes standard. There's so many features on here. It's definitely not as full featured as the X6, but a lot of information is here and it's adjustable. There's also a 25 speaker ELS Studio stereo, but if you're not already in one of these audio modes, it's actually hard to adjust the settings. So if I go to Bluetooth audio, see, this is what I mean about using this touchpad. If this was a touchscreen, you'd be able to hit this right away. The digital instrument panel has multiple views, and when you're in Sport Plus mode, you get the turbo boost, including a peak indicator and a G meter. Now, a lot of this is not fully adjustable because all you can see really is stuff on the right-hand side. There's no full screen maps, no augmented reality, none of the really crazy stuff and useful technology that you'll find on the X6. The X6 has a really curvy rear roof, but it's up front, where there's nearly an extra inch of headroom versus the MDX. Despite how dramatic this curved display might look, the BMW has a more restrained interior because there's fewer physical buttons and switches. It does look good and the quality is top-notch, definitely better than the Acura. But the upholstery is called Sensifin. It's vinyl. It's not even leather. The Acura, much better quality in that department. But everywhere else you look, it does feel like a classic BMW updated for the next generation. These seats are the optional multi-contour, so they do have extra side bolstering. They've also got the nice classic BMW thigh bolstering that powers out, but they don't massage. The Acura does. There's less headroom, but there's more than an inch of extra legroom in the MDX. Plus these seats, there's 16 ways. Not only do they heat and cool, but there's 9-way massage. Lesser MDX trims don't feel as nice as this. The Type S truly feels like it's a luxury vehicle at this price range. There's wavy black stitching over this soft white leather, real leather, not like the fake one in the BMW. There's wood and metal speakers that illuminate, a flat bottom steering wheel, a lot of nice textures and colors that make this feel like a class above. The MDX is easier to see out of, and it truly feels a little sportier in here because of the seating position, which is lower, and just a little bit more enveloping interior. There's a lot less legroom and a little bit less headroom versus the MDX. As you'd expect, this is meant to be a sport activity coupe, but it's still pretty comfortable. Heated rear seats, a separate climate zone, and extra USB ports right here. The panoramic roof on the MDX stretches further back than it does on the X6. It feels just a little airier in here, not by much considering it is slightly longer overall. And that third row, yeah, it's there, but 2 people are not gonna really fit in there. What I do like, heated outboard seats, separate climate zone, and the stereo that uses a time delay function so you can hear the same great surround sound from back here as you can up there. Despite how sloped that back glass is, there's actually a decent amount of space behind the rear seats on the BMW. 27 cubic feet when the seats are up, 60 when they're folded. But the Acura has the real SUV numbers. It goes up to 71 cubic feet, and there's also a third row of seats. It's pretty tight, but at least you have the option. The 2024 Acura MDX starts at $50,150. There's 8 trims, and the Type S starts at $68,450. Mine was fully loaded with the Advanced package for $75,750. The 2024 BMW X6 starts at $73,900. There's 3 trims, and this one, the xDrive40i, with plenty of options, is $87,545. It comes down to this. If you absolutely need a third row of seats, go get the Acura. If you're unsure about the style, that's kind of a toss-up. I think the Acura is the better looking SUV all around, especially on the outside. But the BMW, despite delivering some less than impressive steering, is truly the leader in engine refinement, power, efficiency, the whole entire chassis, and all the leaps and bounds in technology that they're offering. If you delete some of the options, not all the technology options, but just a few, you're down to closer to $80,000. And close to the Acura, which is almost 76 grand, that's not a big delta. So what is it gonna be? Acura or BMW? That's your call. Let us know what you want to buy, what you're looking at, and go to CarGurus.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more comparisons. They're coming up, so we'll see you next time.